our special guest this evening, Chief Tashka Yawanawa, and the Yawanawa are winners of that Equator Prize, and maybe we might talk a little bit more about that. But Tashka is an incredible human being. I've had the honor and privilege to know Tashka for many years. We've worked together in many capacities, and I'm really looking forward to having more people learn about his story and the story of his people and what's actually happening right now in the Amazon, which is, as many people know, so critical when we talk about the world climate crisis and how we treat the earth in order to deal with these issues moving forward. So with that, Tashka, I want to say welcome to you. Thank you so much for being here. And if you don't mind, Tashka, could you just let us know, I mean, I've introduced you a few times as Chief Tashka Yawanawa of the Yawanawa peoples. Could you just tell us a little bit about how you became Chief of the Yawanawa peoples?
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Roberto. Thank you, Pamela, Nina. Great to have David here. We have Melissa and all friends that's come to enjoy us in this event. I'm talking straight here from the community. It's a real pleasure. Thanks to technology, open this window. I feel looks like we are here in the same table. I'm Tashka Yawanawa. I'm the chief of the Yawanawa people. Yawanawa people is believe at the Yawanawa territory, which is located in the state of Acre in the Brazil Amazon rainforest. And we are about 1,250 people. And we live in the territory of 200,000 hectares of the land. And my story is very linked to my people. And I used to say, I plan one side, but the creator me sent to another place. And actually, I was living in US in Taos, New Mexico, at that time, when my people called me back to have a meeting with them. I come to the community, and I was chosen to be the new leader. Uh, to me, I was embarrassed because in that time I was just 25. And how can I be the chief of my daddy, or can I be chief of Tata? Was the most wise person in the community. That was a big challenge to me. But I say, yes, of course, I accept the challenge if you guys can advise me, can guide me with this condition. I can hold into that. And they say, yeah, we're going to help you. We're going to advise you. We can guide you. With this condition, I start in 2000. And yeah, was a new way of life, of thinking, of the to interact with people in the community, outside of the community. Was everything was changed my whole life. Now I'm here, still learning.
That's amazing, Tashka. So since 2000, you've been leading your community, your peoples. And how many Yawanawa villages are there now, Tashka?
Well, I'm right here in the border. It's about 2.5, and the first community called Matrician, and this land, the Yawanawa land, is we all connect to the river, the Gagor River. All village is sit in the along with the river. Some village is about 3 hours, 4 or 5 hours. Some of them is 15 minutes or 30 minutes. Some is close, some is far located from each other.
Mm. Well, thank you very much. You know, Tashka, when we started out the conversation this evening, we were kind of going back and forth, asking how we were doing and the families are doing. I'm thinking that it would probably be interesting for people if you could share with us a little bit about the Yawanawa's cosmovision and how your people are interpreting uh, these catastrophic events that are occurring now in 2020. I mean, we mentioned the pandemic, COVID-19. We know about the fires. So, can you talk about how your about the Yawanawa Cosmovision and how elders or leaders in the communities are interpreting what's happening now?
Well, uh, it's really big change for the holy world. I used to say, wherever we do, we affect each other because we all live in the same planet. We live, how that's to say, in global village. In this new century, people is perceived than before because before people were just given to indigenous people the responsibility to preserve the nature. But now people is realized that is responsibility of each one that live this land. It's not just about the indigenous people. It's about the people from the urban area, from the forest, from native people, from everything. And indigenous people from immemorial time, they having care. They care about the mother earth, about the medicine, about the ceremony. They are keeping the balance to the equilibrium between the human and the nature. We have they are maintain this kind of equilibrium. Since the human start losing this kind of connection, they start losing the connection. And I think they become really crazy, out of control. What's happening right now with the pandemic thing, what's happened with this whole, let's say, environment crisis happening in the world today. I just back from almost 4 month isolation in the forest. I was initiating on the Yawanawa shaman path. And to me it was really tough experience in my holy life. I see that as a reborning. Is a whole transformation, how you feel, how you can see personally and the entire world. To me, was learning from the silence, to learning from the nature. For every drop of the rain is coming down, every bird goes flying, every movement of the trees, you're learning how everything is sacred, how everything is so connected. I think if you lost, broken uh, this connection, you're not feeling so lost with the land, with the soil, but also you've lost your spiritual connection because each one of us have our own way to connect with the nature. Indigenous people, they show their love to the God, to the Creator, to respect the nature, to live into that. That's maintain us alive. I think this whole COVID-19 happened here. This whole thing has happened because we really lost the connection. We need link it again to be strong, and we need to see each other as a brother and sister. We are so much disconnected. I think a human being so much connected with materialism world. And what we see right now, it's also happening, that materialism, they don't have a value. It's matter you have a lot of money. If you have COVID, you're going to die like somebody don't have money. It's not matter you have a lot of money or you don't have money. You're going to die the same thing, you know. And I think that we need to learn so much from that kind of experience we're living today. Yeah.
That's very. I mean, it's amazing everything that you're talking about, Tashka. One, you mentioned balance, and we're just coming off the equinox time, right, where the Earth itself is going through that idea of balance. But you shared a little bit about your own spiritual journey, how your people, like other indigenous peoples, are connected with nature, and you're really calling upon all human beings to reconnect, right, reconnect with the sacredness of the earth, and how that's missing from so much of the conversation, and even from when folks are trying to put together policies, examples, that essence that you're talking about, the sacredness of the earth, is often not there. So with that in mind, I'm thinking now of a trend that's happening across the world, where people are starting to wake up, in a sense, and many of them are going out and seeking indigenous communities. So there's this sort of indigenous tourism that's rising up again, as people are looking for guidance on how to navigate these challenging times. Again, they're trying to seek out uh, indigenous people, spiritual leaders. Many of them are engaging in ceremonies, as you know, many of them coming and asking for the sacred ayahuasca, for example, and trying to find themselves in indigenous wisdom. And sometimes, we see abuse from that. What do the Yawanawa think about people coming to them, taking part in these ceremonies? And maybe you could express a little bit about that, about your feelings and the feelings of the community on this idea of indigenous tourism.
Colocar mais gasolina. Okay. Well, I think if you walk, you see the flower. You can appreciate the beauty and leave the flower and continue your walk. Or you can find the beautiful flower, or you take. When you take the flower, destroy the flower, and other people cannot see the flower. From immemorial times, indigenous people have been practices of the traditional medicine, the ceremony, through this using the traditional medicine ceremony, have been surviving today, depend 100% of the jungle, of the forest. And it's not new when something like shock people or pandemic happen, people are looking for some fast answer, in somewhere. And they say, oh my God, this guy is here forever and cultivating, living. I need to go there. I need to learn how to do that. I need to, I need to take the flower. I don't care if take the flower, they're not going to use it anymore. I think one thing is respect about the indigenous practices of the medicine. I think one thing you come in one community to participate. The other thing when you want to be a shaman, like I want to be a shaman, I want to be something like that. That's we can link it to the cultural spiritual appropriation. That's not respectable, And the Yawanawa have been receive a lot of people around the world, having different communities, and of course we have a lot of kind experience. Like by myself, I for so many years in the past, Yawanawa was almost slave people from the patrons, the rival tappers, and for the missionary. And the Yawanawa ceremonies, cultural and spiritual manifestation was not practicing. And after 2000, we create a politic, how to give the value, how to be this more present in our life. We did this evaluation in 2000. The evaluation was three questions. How was the Yawanawa before? What they believe, what they eat, how they dress it, how they was. And how was the Yawanawa in that moment? And we think about the future. What kind of people we want to be in the future? After this question, we saw that we was almost losing so much our customs, our artistic expression, our cultural and spiritual manifestation. And we're back, say, let's back, because we asked it to the elders. I asked it to my father, to Nkuru, I asked it Tata, I asked Yawa, Dona Nega, all the guys said, we lost everything. They said, no, everything is right here. Say, okay, let's back. And for this reason, in 2001, we organized the first festival, Yawanawa. The festival Yawanawa was 5 days ceremony. We have the whole day, we have artistic express, song, dancing, and the night, the whole ceremony for 5 days. And this never back anymore. And after this, all the indigenous people is doing the same thing what we started in 2001. This really helped to bring back, to be proud, Yawanawa, to be proud indigenous people here in the Amazon.
It's amazing, amazing and inspiring what you've been able to do since 2000 and how much has been accomplished. Now, you mentioned a couple of things that I just wanted to highlight. You mentioned this idea of spiritual appropriation, where people come in and that the Yawanawa are willing to share certain aspects of the culture, but almost when people come out of the Yawanawa territory and want to be experts, this is something that's not a proper thing. All of a sudden they come out and they're shamans or using another title. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I think that that's important for people to understand that indigenous peoples are willing to share, but this idea of appropriation and others benefiting from the knowledge of the Yawanawa and others, while the Yawanawa themselves are not benefiting, is something that really needs to be looked at. The other thing that I thought was really just so brilliant, Tashka, that you mentioned, was that the way the Yawanawa people came together and asked themselves these three simple questions, which I think that many of us can internalize. Is one, how were our people before? How are we now? And where do we want our people to be in the future? I think that was it's so brilliant and really, I think that's a real example of the Yawanawa cosmovision, even at this time, after you mentioned that how the community suffered so much under the rubber planters, those rubber tappers that had come in, and the missionaries, and etc. So again, it's just such an inspiring story that you have. Tashka, there's a lot of things happening now. You mentioned the COVID-19 pandemic, but another thing that's going on in the Amazon right now, and even worse than last year that we hear, is the effects of the climate crisis, and how the fires are still raging in the Amazon. And these are ancient territories. These are vital territories for the earth. They're important for the presentation and the mitigation of climate change. So what are things that the Yawanawa are doing now to protect their lands, and for example, from fires, from others coming in, maybe the loggers, etc. But I think let's hear a little bit about the fires first and how you all are doing with regards to that.
Again, thank you for the question. I woke this morning with a good news, and I slept last night very sad after I saw the speech of our president Bolsonaro speak at the UN. He said that who is burned is the Amazon, come from indigenous people. This is so shining. This is so stupid. This is so ignorance come from somebody is president of our country. And this really make me really sad. He put it at the falls from the big farmer, from the logging company, for all his fault, because our president, we don't have any kind of politic that protect the environment, that protect indigenous people. But this morning I wake very happy because we just received announced that our documentary, our Havana that we did in 3D in virtual reality, they win the Emmy Prize. And my message was in this crisis is we is a good news for the forest because our voice, we send our voice to the world. We send the cosmology, the beautiful, the love of the rainforest through the virtual reality, and the people can see the magical where we live, and people feel part of that. And that's really good news for us to sleep with bad news and wake with good news, and how we show we love and our engagement to protect the environment. Unfortunately, here in Brazil and say more linked the part of Amazon, a lot of burning going on. But I don't know, people create mental, I say mental negative. They deny, they don't believe it. Looks like we're living in the Hitler time, where people see the thing, don't believe. Like people don't believe, people from we call Bolsonaro's guy don't believe into that, but this really happened. And it's really sad because of actors that are burning, they burning so much biodiversity, they burning so much medicine, they they burning so much learning. And unfortunately here in our country, we don't have any kind of politic to protect from the fire, to protect indigenous leaders, and uh, and this is really sad. We never lived this before, and they really make us all in dangers, and that's is a big politic. It's not more locally, but this become where people look back and they say, "This is nightmare." I need to wake this thing because I cannot believe in 21st century. I believe like a witness what's happened today. I hope that the force of the Creator from our ancestors and all people together in the same mind and same connection, we can change this. Otherwise, we're not going to have a beautiful future for our future generation.
Thank you, Tashka. It's just incredible how this rise of populism and authoritarianism is taking hold around the world. And like you said, it's like a nightmare. And you know, once again, the story of the Yawanawa and what you're going through really highlights and affirms that indigenous peoples are on the front line of the climate crisis. And also still, this is not a story from 500 years ago when Columbus first came to the islands and found my people, and that abuse and oppression. This is happening now, where a president of a country is blaming indigenous peoples for starting fires in the forest where they make their home, they get their food, they are raising their families. Like, I mean, really, does anybody? It's amazing that he would feel that this news would be received in a way that anybody could possibly think it's legitimate. But it really gives you a sign of the times. I know we're going through similar things here in the U.S. with fake news and this lack of leadership on climate in the United States and U.S. territories. So yeah, it's just incredible. But you mentioned one thing, Tashka, there about you know how you're sad, but also congratulations on the documentary, and that the documentary won an Emmy Award. I did put a link to that, an article about the documentary into the chat section in case people want to click on that. But it talks about the story of the first woman shaman in the community and really gets into many issues around the Yawanawa. And so again, congratulations to all the community for that, Emmy. But when you talk about assistance and getting that word out like the documentary does, it helps raise that visibility of the Yawanawa and other indigenous peoples. You know, there's this dialogue, this conversation that we're having tonight is courtesy of Tribal Link and Equator and the Equator Initiative. And I'm wondering, Tashka, if you could just share a little bit about how and what is the importance of organizations like Tribal Link Foundation and the Equator Initiative in helping the Yawanawa community and raising that visibility of the community.
I think we all need each other. We all can change the world, each one of us. And thinking that way, we are not feel alone, but we have somebody that can connect you with UN, and your voice can be heard for many places. It's very funny. I was in UN, I think 3-4 years ago, and I give interview for UN radio station. Somebody from UN station come to me, interview me, I give the interview. 3 months later, I was up the river, and my motor broken, my canoe broken. I was nowhere, just in the middle of the river. And I was slowly, and I arrived at this very humble house of the riverman that live in, and I was there, and I was talking to him, explaining who I am and where I'm going to the community. He was laughing off my face. He said, "No, I know you. I hear you 2 months ago, UN radio station. I hear you was talking." In the UN radio station. He was talking about the Yawanawa, he was talking about the project, he was talking about the Gregorio River. And I said, yes, man. It was 4 in the morning. I listened to you. I was so happy that what I said in UN, they just got back to me like 2 hours by canoe. And I think that kind of experience really give a voice where you don't have a voice. And Link, we all need I think we have this important role where the international communities, where engages NGO like a Tribal Link, like Equator Initiative, they both gave us a lot of space in recognizing. I think Equator Initiative Pride is really open a lot of doors for us. It was really great. After we win the prize, and Tribal Link really connect us, and with UN. Avida, was really great as a private company to support us for this last. I think we are almost 30 years working together. It was a unique experience. We have all these beautiful and great guys with us like you. This will make us don't feel alone. We are all together. This is really great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm just, thinking about our relationship over the years and how even our community is just coming together, for people who don't know that we came together just a couple of years ago as communities, the Taino, the Scotticoke, with the Yawanawa. We signed a treaty together to help each other, and that was really a proud moment of my life, and a proud moment for my community as well. So this idea of needing each other, yeah, we certainly do that. And so this brings me to my last question before I want to see if anybody who's listening in might want to type any questions. But how can folks who are listening to us, who are part of this community of people who are interested in what's happening in the Amazon, what's happening with the Yawanawa, what's happening with the earth, what are some ways that they could be helpful to the Yawanawa at this really critical time period? Can you share anything?
Sure. I think, as I say in the beginning, take care about the nature to preserve the Mother Earth. It's not just responsibility for indigenous people, but a responsibility of each one that live in this earth. I used to say, we are not here in vacation. We born here, we live here, we're going to die here, and the future generation is going to come, and you can do a difference. Also, uh, we always haven't invited people to participate, to support the Yawanawa cause. After all this COVID-19 happened, we are living, we are building things by support the community. We have a website they call asc.org, ascy.org, and you can find a lot of information about the Yawanawa. And through Tribal Link, they have been our partner for so long. Yeah, and you can contribute, you can participate, you can help create the balance that I was talking about very in the beginning.
Very much, Tashka. All right, right now, I think I've entered the questions that I wanted to ask you. Are there any questions from folks who are listening in? Maybe you want to type a question into the chat that we could ask Chief Tashka while he's available. We have about just over 20 minutes left for the program. And well, here we go. Here's a question coming in from Stefan Landauer. He says, what is Chief Tashka trying to make happen for his people? Where would he like them to be in 20 years?
Well, thanks for the question. I think it's not what I wanted, but what my people want. And for this reason, 6 years ago, we seated together and we did a plan, what we call the Yawanawa Life Plan. The Yawanawa Life Plan is a new way how indigenous people organize it to survive in this 20th, 21st century, and also how they're going to protect the land, they're going to strengthen the culture, they're going create a new economy and balance where they can have an economy in the community without destroying the environment. And I think this, if we, yeah, and also the if somebody wants to know about the Yawanawa Life Plan, I have a link I send later to Roberto. He can give to the people. I think is what I always used to work in collectivity. In collectivity, we decide much better for our people. And I think the Yawanawa Life Plans, we already have a planning, and we hope in 20 years, we're going to live in our territory. We're going to enjoy where we born, also enjoy the technology like today. I'm here right here in the community, but connected with you and preserve the land, preserve our traditional knowledge of medicine, and preserving our people, our generation. Yeah, I think so.
Thank you, Chief Tashka. I don't see another question here yet, but how are the Yawanawa youth resonating to that message? In many tribal communities, youth leave communities and don't come back. Do you, as Yawanawa, have this problem, or do you find that the youth are becoming more proud of their culture, want to stay and build up the communities?
I think this is a dilemma that the whole indigenous people live. I remember in very beginning of 2000 when I became a chief of the Yawanawa, a lot of young people they don't want to know anything to link it to the tradition, to the spirituality. But after the whole work we did to give to the value to our tradition, our customs, our spirituality, I think they feel much linked to the spirituality. Today they feel much linked to the land. I think the Yawanawa land is the best place where the young people is enjoying living. You know, is very funny because traditionally the Yawanawas they don't play any kind of instrument, and the young people they introduce the guitar. Now they play the Yawanawa traditional songs, playing guitar, drums. You know, so in the beginning I was like in shock, but I said to me, no, this is about the culture, about change, to adapting to survive, because a culture is not static. They need it moving. It's like a water to survive, to be strong. I used to say, I pray, and pray. They renew every morning. We sing with the same force, with the same power that our ancestors was singing uh, from long time ago, because they come from the road, they come from the heart, they come from the soul. That's never they become a fashion model. They always new, they're renewable every day, every morning.
We have a couple of other questions coming in, Tashka. One from Ruben Gandris. What kind of role do you think will be the role of traditional and indigenous peoples in the creation of this awareness, a cognitive revolution, opening up their minds for the mainstream? We mentioned some people going into the community, but are there other ways that you think that indigenous peoples will have a role in this revolution of the mind?
Yes, I think this is my friend Ruben. Rubão. Hey, Rubão, that's great. He's from Rio de Janeiro. He's my good friend. We are friends for so long. Well, Rubão, do you know we actually you have experience to come to the Yawanawa communities for so many times, and you also have been working with other Rabbiters indigenous indigenous community here in St. Tobacco. I think the revolution today, the awakeness is through the medicine. I think the one the ayahuasca, the uni ceremony, they really open your brain to see like everything is connected. The human being, the nature, and people. And what we try to do with our Vana, the documentary, is but share a little bit how people feel. I have 2 cups of ayahuasca, and that's open your window. You can travel. This is the magician of technology. You there, but you can come and have the experience. I think much people see that they going to open the mind. They going to care more. I have an experience in São Paulo in the world in this big World Economic Forum. We have this stand, and every governor and president of the country can see the Havana. And one guy from Oaxaca state, from Mexico, and he come to see our Vana. And we gave him the sunglass,
Okay, now
and I taped to my brother-in-law and say, you know, who is here right now is the governor of the state. He said, wow, it's really true because he don't like indigenous people. I say, yeah, he come to see the Bhavana. And I was so have a lot of curiosity what he going to say after he back. And after he saw the Bhavana, he comes crying and say, oh my God, this really touched my heart. I have so many indigenous people in my state. I never pay attention. I want to back there. I want to do something. I want to produce something that's beautiful thing like this. And another experience I have in Davos. We come to Davos and we have a session with a lot of presidents and businessmen around the world. And after we finish the session, one big guy, tall guy, he with all his face cover and come to you know, I want to talk to you. I say, what? I say, yeah, I want to talk to you. I say, okay. I was like, scary. I said, let's go to have a sitting under the table. And ask him. He was really strong. Like this guy has come to me. I say, okay, what's going on? Say, he get the whole thing. He was crying. So emotionally touched when he saw the Ravana. I think this really came little by little, change people, get them out awareness about environment, about tradition, about the medicine, about indigenous people.
Thank you, Tashka. Uh, we have one more question in the chat, and I see Joy Garland is raising her hand. So we're going to take the question in the chat first, and then Joy Garland's question will be the last question because we're coming on to the end of our program today. Although I know that we could talk for hours, but I know you're very busy over there. You are a community leader, and we really appreciate this time. But one was, these questions referred to, you know, what you were making the statement about the current position of the Brazilian government on indigenous peoples, climate change, and so one, do you feel that it's safe for you to speak about these things, you know, in a forum like this? And if so, how can people help, you know, express their feelings about what's being said about the indigenous peoples in the Amazon now?
Well, we are living in crucial time now. It's all about the politics. Who support the president, who not support. If you don't support, if you don't agree, you are become an enemy. Personally, I prefer don't go so deep. You know, it's about politics. Right now, I prefer talking in generally. And generally, we don't have any kind of politics. And to preserve or protect who preserve the environment. A lot of burning are happening right now in the Amazon and in different places. And I think people have this kind of brainwash. A lot of, you are talking about the fake news, you know, and it's very funny because in Brazil now they adapt this word fake news, you know. You know, in Portuguese they call falsa notícia, but now people adapt it. In Brazil, everybody now is calling fake news, you know. I think the owner who created the fake news here is our president. What he just say in the UN is a fake news. Talking about India is fall of indigenous people. He was going is burning uh, the forest. Indigenous people upset what he say. We are the most people have preserved. We are the most people have keeping the balance, you know, and very fast. When somebody he say that, this really can be a fake news.
Yeah. So are there any specific things that we could do to help raise the position of the Yawanawa and the indigenous position? What can we do out here to help raise your voice and bring this to
I
people's
think,
attention?
sure. I think, as I was saying, each one of us can change the world. I think many politics that the Brazilian government is doing is not just against indigenous people, it's all against the humanity because burning the Amazon did not just going to affect indigenous people from the Amazon. This going to affect the whole humanity. I think you can have a pressure your president of your country, you can press your governor very full, send a letter. He need to know that people is not happy and who preserve the land is not alone. I think this is very important.
Thank you so much, Chief Tashka. We're going to go now to the question from Joy Garland. We're going to unmute Joy, and she's going to ask a question. And that will be the final question of the evening. And then, if you have any closing words, we'll get to those. But Joy, if you can, let's see if we can unmute you on our end, or you can unmute yourself. Please feel free to ask the question now.
Se não tiver, tá aqui no meu quarto dentro, tá?
Joy, I'm trying to unmute you, but I'm not managing. Let's see. Could you try to do it on your end?
On the bottom left of the screen, there should be a unmute button. If you can unmute. We still don't have you unmuted. So we can't hear you at all, Joy. Let's see if while I don't know. Oh, here you go. You're off mute now. Please ask your question. Yes.
My husband. I'm a member of the organization called Green Faith. And recently I've been learning more and more about three companies that have been helping the bad things going on in the community there in where you are. And one of them is BlackRock, one of them is Vanguard, and one of them is State Street. And they deal with promoting fossil fuels and so on and so on. I don't want to take more time, but if you are familiar with these three important main companies, we are trying all that we can do to stop them because of all the harm they're doing to encourage the deforestation for fossil fuels and so on. So I don't know if you haven't mentioned any of the bad guys too much tonight, but for me, they're number one bad guys or girls, I don't know.
Locally here, I never hear about them, but we are not missing bad guy. We have a lot of bad guys around us all the time in the companies and the government. Yeah. So I don't have hear about them yet. Sorry.
Thank you. I hope you don't have to.
It's not a problem. Yes.
Sure.
Well, thank you very much for that comment, Joy. And we've just about come to the end of our program. We've had a really, for me, an inspiring talk, a very eye-opening talk in many parts of this conversation. Tashka, are there any closing words that you'd like to share with the folks who have signed on and hopefully the folks that will view this presentation afterwards?
Yeah. I was just going to do my tobacco and just, I'm going to have a blessing for everybody. And yeah, this is really great honor for everybody to have to come to this talk and this afternoon. what I'm doing is tobacco is a cigarette in Yawanawa. I'm allowed to do that because I just was initiated 3 months ago, and I will do a blessing for all of us. The chai hu chai ki na na ho nu sharashi na shun nu kayano me ayukano no kaishin do na ishin no kushani no kunyo no kanikake manikake manutsai. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
I can't think of a better way to close out our program. It's been an honor, like always, to talk to you, my brother, Chief Tashka. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. Thank you for that incredible blessing. Thank you for this real on-the-ground update of what's happening in the Amazon. I want to also thank the Tribal Link Foundation, UNDP's Equator Initiative. I want to thank Nina, Andy, Pamela, Michael, Stefan, and everyone who worked to get this presentation here and make it a reality. And you know, we send people are just writing in the chat how they're sending their blessings. They're thinking about the Yawanawa. Once we post this again, we'll reach some more people. We've posted a link to a fundraiser. We posted a link to the Yawanawa Life Plan here. And so hopefully folks will follow up on that. I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you for tuning in. Please continue to follow Tribal Link at its website or on Twitter or on any way that you can, Facebook. And we hope to bring another program with another Indigenous Wisdom Keeper very soon. But again, this has been just a wonderful, incredible evening with you, Chief Tashka. Thank you so much for being here. I say Hahom Atiao. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right. So Nina, we can end the program now. Tashka will follow up with you. Once again, thank you everybody for tuning in this evening with us and being part
Thank
of
you.
this really important conversation. Good night.
Thank you, Roberto, as well, and Tribal Link and everyone. Bye-bye.